All right. Good morning, everyone. My name's Debbie Morrow, and I'm so excited. It's Thursday, my favorite day of the week. You guys all know that. I love hanging out with you. I am here with a few co-hosts that make this party a little bit easier to manage. Walt, Jackie, and Peggy are so helpful when it comes to, managing the chaos that we have here. So. Um, Typically, you know what, Walt, that is the co-host, I mean, the speaker actually calling me. So I'm going to mute and let you
Yeah.
run with it.
All righty. Well, today we are jumping into something super fun and exciting because we're waiting on our guest speaker to dive in. They have a little bit of a hiccup. So I am going to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about for the next few minutes until our guest speaker can dive in. So we can talk about real estate, the market, data, trends, how to grow business, anything on anybody's mind that's worth talking about today. Let me know and I'll chat about it with you. First one to speak gets the floor. Peggy,
I'd
what you
like,
got? I saw your hand go up.
yeah, you bet. Because we live in a large country, I would like to know more about what's going on in the different economies because every economy, like we had North
Yeah,
Carolina, that's a different economy than California, which is having some challenges, and yet the market doesn't seem to be affected that way. So I'm curious about what's going on in the up and down of because you see more of that in single family than you do in commercial.
sure, for sure. Yeah, I will tell you that Florida has been somewhat insulated, in my opinion, from the market volatility. Everyone says, because we coach a lot of agents, we talk to a lot of agents all across the country, different countries. I was in Canada a few weeks ago talking to agents in Canada. And Florida is unique in that we have a lot of the country's inventory right now. If you were to take Florida, California, and Texas, that's about a third of the entire inventory in the US. So while a lot of people are talking about things aren't selling, there's no sellers, the buyers aren't buying, the interest rates are too high, we've been a little bit insulated from that in Florida. We still have some market closing. But I'll tell you, I had a really interesting conversation just last week with a gal in California. And I'm not going to mention her name because she's not on the call and I didn't prep this in advance. But we were basically talking about some goals that she had. And they were pretty lofty goals. Like she had some ideas about buying some Airbnbs and living at them and being the on-site manager and just being an investor that lives at the Airbnbs essentially. But she started the conversation with me with, I haven't closed on a house since September. Mind you, this conversation was last week. I haven't closed on a house since September. My husband and I both quit our jobs to focus on this bed and breakfast management dream of ours. And I found a property that I want to buy. Who do you know that can give me $150,000 for 18 months to make this happen?
I know.
And I said, listen, you both quit your jobs, you wrecked your credit, you haven't sold a house since September, and you want someone to loan you $150,000. It might be time to go sell some houses and make some money. And her response was, well, the Central California market is dead. I'd have to move to be able to close on a house. So Walt, being a data-driven guy, I'm not an emotionally driven guy. I just jumped on Zillow and I did a quick search within 45 minutes of her house because I know where she lives. Within a 45-minute radius of her house, 2,330 homes had sold in the last 90 days. In a market where she thought, or at least emotionally, she's deciding the market is dead. So I took a screenshot of that and I sent it to her and I said, hey, listen, there's over 2,300 homes that sold in the last 90 days. The market might have slowed down, but business is still happening. And her response was a great lesson in mindset. Her response to that was, I would never do business in any of these ghetto cities. It's like, first of all, you live in those cities. That's your ghetto. Own it. Two, that is the wrong mindset to have in this market where things are shifting. Yes, there are less buyers that are optimistic about jumping right in because the interest rates are high. There are some buyers that are waiting. There are less sellers that might be selling because, well, I got 3% and it's at 7 right now. I'm not buying another house right now. But what I was trying to get her to understand, and it's a lesson for everybody in the real estate space, every single day in every single market, somebody has to sell their house. Somebody still wants to buy a house. try your best, and this is for any industry, but try your best not to get into that negative mental loop of saying things in absolutes. The real estate space does not exist in absolutes. Not all the none of the sellers are selling. All of the buyers are waiting. There's no inventory. Those negative mental loops will cause you to sit idle when you should be out growing your business. There's always someone to buy. There's always someone to sell. There is always someone you can help in this industry. And that's whether you're a lender, you're a real estate agent, you're an insurance broker. There's always someone who needs your help if you're willing to go connect with them and offer the help.
Yeah, and
Just a
Walter,
quick
you know
little-
what I would say on that as well, like not only for real estate, but I mean, obviously mindset for life. Because anytime that you are, you know, thinking in absolutes and like putting that energy out, and you're bringing that back to you. I'm a big believer in law of attraction. So
Oh, yeah.
it's like if I'm constantly thinking there's no business, guess what? I'm not going to
There's
have
no
any
business.
business. I don't know. Maybe someone else doesn't think like that. And you're like, how come they're selling all those houses? Well, because they're probably realizing there's an opportunity out there, right? But I think the other important point that you're making is, you know, a lot of times I've found over the years that realtors get like super focused on local and they don't think about like other ways that they could work in other markets, even though they don't have a license there, right? So there's lots of ways to do that. Like if you're data driven, like find out where there are houses that are selling quicker maybe than where you actually live, and maybe get a connection with a realtor there and find out how to give that person referrals, or work with a company who, you know, you can build nationally or globally or different things. Because the truth is, just because something's happening in North Carolina, Charlotte, doesn't mean the same thing's happening in New York City or Florida or whatever. So if you just open up and expand your sphere of influence, you know, we always talk about sphere of influence, but for realtors, they always think that's like, who do I know right here in this town where I can sell a house? But your sphere of influence is like expansive, right? It's just about where you're thinking that it is. So yeah. Jose has a question, Walter.
Yep. And we always say you make the market.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a
you
good
make
saying.
your
That's
own
a really good
economy.
saying. Yeah.
Which is way shorter.
Jose, what's
Jose?
your question real quick?
So I don't have a question. I just wanted to contribute to the
Oh, go ahead.
mindset. So every time I go to a networking meeting and I stand up to give my elevator speech, I always say, and I know everybody knows this, but there are some new people on the call, and I wanted to share that with them. Marry the house, buy the rate. I mean, marry the house, date the rate. And remember, you're paying your landlord 100% interest.
Yeah.
And I usually have at least one person come up to me and they say, you know what? I know that, but I'm glad you brought that up. And I strike up a conversation and I pick them up as a buyer.
100%. No doubt about it. Debbie, real quick, did our hosts jump in? Are they running late? Are they not going to make it today?
They are trying to get in. It's telling them that the event is at capacity as well. And so I've tried sending him a couple of different links, and so we're trying to get there. We are not there yet.
Okay.
So Walt,
Yeah.
I'd say keep going.
We'll just keep going. Yeah. So perfect. So I'll share an idea that I'm sure every single person on this call can benefit from. Whether you're a real estate agent, you're a lender, you're a financial advisor, it doesn't matter. A CPA, you all work together here. I'm actually going to be having this conversation next week at the Chamber of Commerce Real Estate Expo they asked me to come speak at. So I'll give you guys a little, 15-minute pep talk on it. One of the easiest ways to generate business in any industry is to focus your time on who can I serve and how do I add more value. Don't worry about the type of lead or what company I can pay or any of that silliness. There's so many ways to get business for free. It's ridiculous. One of the things I love to do, and I have an entire coaching call that I do on this with some resources and tools, but I'll just give you guys the conversational piece. Build the strategic partnerships with people that are in your space that you're not necessarily thinking about right now. So what I mean by that is when I talk to a real estate agent and I say the word partner, they typically think of things like, I have a title rep, I have a lender, right? Maybe I have a home inspector, right? They think very, very specific to the house transaction itself, right? And there's nothing wrong with having great partners to service your clients, but broaden your horizon a little bit and think about everyone else out in the world that has your client already that you have not made contact with, you've not built a relationship with, because not only do they have your clients already, but you have theirs. There's value that you can add when you build that relationship. I'm going to use an estate attorney as a quick example. I'll walk through this scenario. You can do this with estate attorneys, financial advisors, insurance reps, CPAs, you name it, bankruptcy attorneys, divorce lawyers. You can expand this as far as you want. But I'm going to use estate attorneys as a really quick example because I think most people on the call will be able to grab a hold of this really easy. What does an estate attorney do every day of the week? When they're at their office doing estate attorney work, what are the kinds of things they're doing? Anybody know? You guys can drop it in the chat. Give me some ideas of what you think an estate attorney does every day that they're working. I want you guys drop some thoughts in the chat real quick. Just your regular Joe Schmo estate attorney sitting in their office doing what they do. What are they doing? Jackie said connecting with heirs. Jeff said they deal with probate. Absolutely. Both of those are correct. That's what most people think of. Planning what happens when people die. Absolutely. That's what most people think of when they think of an estate attorney, right? Someone has passed. We need to get the assets through probate. We need to help the heirs liquidate whatever they have. That's exactly what most people think of. I want you to think about this from a different perspective now. I'm try to shift your paradigm a little bit. The reason estate attorneys do exactly what you're talking about is because statistically speaking, 70% of the time, Americans have no will. And so when they pass, the heirs have to go to an estate attorney. They have to work through the probate process because there's no clear delineation of assets. Now, that means they don't have a will. They don't have a power of attorney. They don't have a medical directive. They don't have a living trust. If you're in Florida, they don't have a ladybird deed to pass the assets, the house down. They have no estate planning documents to tell the state and federal government, here's how I would like you to deal with my estate. That's why they stay so busy working probate. Now, here's how we bring this back around to adding value to them. 70% of the time, these are statistical facts. I'm not making this up on the fly. I know they say 85% of statistics are made up on the fly. This one is not. This is an actual statistic. I think it's technically 69%. 70% of Americans don't have a will. That means every single person you know, your friends, your family, your fellow agents, your fellow insurance rep, your current clients, your past clients, if you just find a good reason to ask the question, did you update your will? 7 out of 10 times, they're going to look at you sideways and go, I don't have a will. What are you talking about? And that's your opportunity to connect them to an estate attorney, which does two things. It serves your client better and builds your reputation as someone they want to work with and refer to. 2, it builds your partner's business so that they would kind of be silly not to reciprocate when the opportunity arises, okay? So imagine you're working with a buyer client for a moment. You work through the deal, 30, 45 days, whatever it is. It's closing day. Boom, we have signed, we closed. Here's your closing basket, high five. And then the next day you call them. The next day after you close, you call them. And you say, hey, Joe, I just want to say congratulations again. I'm super excited for you guys. I forgot to ask you at the closing table, did you update your will? There's a 7 out of 10 probability they're going to not have a will at all. And they're going to go, well, what do you mean, did I update my will? And you're going to be able to say, hey, listen, you just bought a multi-$100,000 asset. You're building an estate now. Heaven forbid something was to happen to one of you. What would that do to protect the family? Listen, don't even stress over this. I have a wonderful estate attorney partner that I'm going to connect you with. Give them 15 minutes of your time. They'll walk you through why this matters. And you don't have to use them, but I'll sleep better at night knowing you let me make the connection. Can I do that for you? And your clients are going to absolutely love you. You're going to take care of them well, and you're going to build your partner's business. Now, let's flip this on its head. If you go have a conversation with an estate attorney and you ask that estate attorney, what happens after probate is cleared? Right? You've been working with this family for 7 months, walking them through this legal battle. You're like family to them. They're ready to sell the assets. Are they just left on their own in a sea of 2 million licensed agents and hope they find a good one that's going to treat them like you did? 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to be, yeah, it's not really what we do. We don't sell houses. And that's your opportunity to explain why you should partner with them and take care of their clients as an extension of the relationship they've already built with them. And you're going to get listing business all day long from that. This was a real world conversation that actually happened. I'm going to walk you through it. I was on the phone with an estate attorney partner that I was building. And I asked the question, once you've cleared them through probate and they're ready to sell the assets, are they left on their own to go find a realtor to work with in a sea of 2 million licensed agents? And they said, no, no, of course not. We have a list of local real estate agents in our office, and we give them the list so they can call any agent they want. And I said, how old's the list? And I don't know, it's been there for years. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And they, what do you mean you're sorry to hear that? I'm like, well, listen, statistically speaking, the real estate space has an 80% failure rate in the first 2 years. So that means if this list is more than about 18 months old, you're giving names and phone numbers to your clients, and 80% of the time, no one's going to answer the call. That's going to ruin your reputation. Wouldn't it make more sense for the two of us to just partner together so that you know they're going to get someone to take care of them? And we built a partnership, right? I send them my clients when they need a will, a power of attorney, a medical directive. They want to do a ladybird deed for the real estate in Florida. I have done free informational Zoom calls so that my community and my sphere can be educated by the estate attorney, right? It builds my brand. I'm the go-to expert. All my clients benefit. I get new clients because they jump on the Zoom. But I'm very specifically trying to grow that estate attorney's business. And then what happens? I get phone calls from people that say things like, hey, Walt, you don't know me. My name's Tina. Katie gave me your number. I need to sell my sister's house. Listing business falls in my lap. I don't have to try to win that listing. I don't have to try to convert that client. This person who walked them through a monster legal process for the last 7 months and is now like family, dropped my name. That's my listing. We're done here. You can do that same thing with financial advisors, with divorce lawyers, with bankruptcy attorneys, with CPAs. Go out into the space tangential to the actual real estate transaction and build partnerships, because every person you know needs those services. I'll pick on the financial advisors for a minute. If you're a financial advisor, you typically don't work with people who are broke, because they don't need you, right? They need money to grow money. Now, you might walk some people through the process. You might educate some people how to get started. But generally speaking, financial advisors work with people that have money. Some of those financial advisors and some of those investors are wise enough to know, you know what, 6% in a mutual fund in this market, that's not really what I want to do. I want to put my money to work a little bit faster, a little bit harder. I would like to buy some investment property. I want to get into the flip business. I've got some money sitting aside. If your financial advisor understands how to ask that question while they're consulting with their clients anyway, hey, have you thought about buying any investment real estate in the next 6 months? Yeah, I thought about that. I don't really know how to get started, but I'd love to take some of the nest egg I've got and put it into rental properties. Great. Let me help you by connecting you to Walt, my realtor partner. He can walk you through the investment process. And if that makes sense, let's move some of that money over and you do your thing. Financial advisors. If you sell a house, I'm going to flip this back on. We're always trying to add value to the other partner, right? If you sell a listing, you see the seller's net sheet. You know how much money they're about to put in their bank account. And a lot of times it's more money than they've ever had at one single moment in their life. Don't you like your clients enough to ask them, hey, listen, congratulations, I saw your net sheet. Please don't go buy a Maserati and squander this. Do you have a great financial advisor that's walking you through how to make sure this money lasts and grows? Because if you don't, I have a phenomenal investment professional. Her name's Peggy. She can help you out. Can I make an introduction? That's just me helping my clients. and helping my business partner grow their business, because I know my business partner is going to send that back to me when the time comes, right? When you start thinking outside of just the transaction, whether you're a lender and you're thinking about closing the loan, you're a real estate agent, you're thinking about closing the sale, you're a financial advisor, you're just thinking about mutual funds and ETFs. When you start reaching outside of your own specific industry and you realize how interconnected all of that is, you start finding business that costs you absolutely nothing but a phone call, a conversation, and the willingness to add value to somebody else. Anyway, all right, off my soapbox. I'll leave it at that. Jackie, I see your hand went up. What you got?
Well, actually,
Yeah.
before Jackie
Oh.
starts, well, thank you so much for kind of filling in until we got Solomon here. Solomon is here, and I don't know. It was a Zoom challenge. He was trying multiple different ways to get in. He finally got in with Tushar's login. So
Yay.
thank you, Tushar. Solomon, please unmute so you come to the top of the screen and I can see you. And uh, tell everyone what is so cool and interesting about what you've done in the real estate industry. And it's really, I think it's kind of cool that Walt kind of filled in for him, because he has a fairly similar story as Walt as far as how he got into the real estate business. So Solomon, where are you, buddy?
I'm right here at the top. And my screen, I'm right next to you.
Excellent. Well, tell us all about how you got into the real estate industry and what you're doing that's so different.
Lovely. I really do appreciate it. So I did not get to hear the first of Walt's story, so I'm so sorry that I missed that. Zoom was being very challenging. But I got into the real estate industry as a airman first class when I was in the Air Force. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for my next business. And I had no clue what I was going to do. I was just kind of stuck. So I decided, let me go join the Air Force, thinking that was going to solve a lot of my problems, and it did not. But in the Air Force, they give you a lot of downtime, and in basic training, you go through all these classes, and at the end of each class, one of these disgruntled sergeants is telling you, hey, these are the things that the government pays for. And most people joining the Air Force are either kids fresh out of high school or people who are joining at an older age, roughly around 20 to 25 years old. Okay, so roughly 20 to 25 years old. And with that, you get people asking lots of different questions, such as who pays for housing? Does the government pay for hotels when you travel? When you travel to Korea, how does the government reimburse you? These are all questions people are asking, and you get to learn. Fast forward a year, I'm stationed in Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. And the first thing that my commander tells me is, hey, you should create a survey. My commander said you need to create a survey so that way when people are coming on the base, you can get a sense of if they've been drinking or if they're high or whatever. So my survey was very simple. What did you do on the weekends? What did you enjoy doing on the weekends? And if I could change anything around here, what would it be? And, you get 70,000 military personnel answering this question. You get a lot of data coming back to you. And in that data, all I did was very much and clearly focus on, the one thing I can buy as an airman first class with absolutely zero money. I was lucky to be married, so I was able to move off of the military base, and I bought my first home utilizing my VA loan. I turned that home into a 3-bedroom house. It was already a 3-bedroom house, but I took that 3-bedroom house and I completely gutted it. We're talking old 50s style homes, so small garage that can't accommodate modern day cars, not really a laundry area or anything like that. And what I discovered was that my military members who were attending this base were there for stints of 9 months to maybe 3 months max, right? Or sorry, 3 months at the least, 9 months at the longest. And I would really start deciding how I'm going to build these homes was to accommodate for these short-term renters. Nobody really wanted to rent to them. No one cared about them, even if they were military members. But I had already known that the government was paying them extra money to live in this market for this 9-month period. And so what I did was I turned one single family home into a 3-master bedroom house with multiple laundry rooms, 2 sets of laundry, 2 sets of dishwashers, 2 sets of stove, put TVs up on all of the walls. So 3 really big TVs. And then I charged $850 per room instead of $850 for the entire house. And in doing so, I had a house that I had bought for literally no money down. I had fixed it up for maybe $60,000,
renting out each room for $850 every single month, and then to refinance that property at the end of my 6-month hold period in the state of Texas, able to refinance that house at around $250,000. I'd only bought it for maybe $70,000 at the time. So I was only really into this property for maybe $150K fees and insurance, taxes, all that jazz included, and able to not only pull that money out to start the process over again. And so by the time I left the Air Force, I was able to leave with roughly around 47 houses, over 75 units of homes, all rented towards military. And that became my niche and has been my niche for the past 10 years, helping individuals identify not only what type of military bases to invest in, but also obviously, having passive investors invest with us through across some of these assets. And that has been my niche, like I said, for the past 10 years. And that's slowly helped me grow into a globally focused real estate firm, across the United States, Europe, and Dubai. So it's been a very good time.
Excellent. Solomon, tell us a little bit about the events that you've created around helping people grow their real estate business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so I had to figure out a lot of the real estate stuff on my own. And one thing I decided to do during this time frame when I was starting to invest was, how do I bring these people to me so I can learn something? Commercial lenders, insurance, like I had no clue about any of it. And so what I focused on was, I'm gonna go host this event called Cigars and Real Estate. So I would show up to the cigar bar. I'd go grab 2 bottles of whiskey, I'd go order a pizza, and I'd bring 2 big old bottles of Coca-Cola and some ice. And what I would do from there is invite these people to come meet with me and speak with me and learn from them and teach them what I knew, right? And we were sort of sharing this information. Fast forward again, 10 years in the future, we're now, a very large real estate event company where we're not only hosting people to help them identify how to find these niches or how to find value or how to even, essentially increase your NOI by taking less on your insurance. There's so many different things that I've been able to allow people to learn and be able to grow in this forum to the point where now we host our events in Texas, across Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, as well as Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Miami, New York, and Amsterdam, where I live. I'm not in Amsterdam now, I'm in Austin, but Amsterdam is where I live whenever I'm not here in the United States. So I do host my events there as well. And that's been our main focus, is really trying to make sure that people understand a lot of the things that I wish that I had known starting off in real estate. And even if you have been doing it for a while, taking advantage of things like the USDA loan or increasing CapEx in lieu of higher insurance premiums. It's a matter of being able to identify not only where you have an edge as an investor, but even if you're a realtor, a lender, an insurance agent, being knowledgeable so that when you do meet somebody, to Walt's point, you can say, oh, well, who would actually be very helpful for your 1031 exchange when you sell your property? I know this person. It becomes an area of building up your toolbox, as I call it. And each person in your toolbox is unique in that way that they allow you to accomplish a specific job. And that's a really big piece of what we teach.
Excellent. Thank you, Solomon.
Of course.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for either Solomon or Walt, since Walt kind of kicked us off this morning? Anyone?
I got a question for Solomon, if that's okay. So first of all, appreciate your service. I'm a 21-year Navy vet. I'll pick on you all day long about being Air Force, but I love
Thank
my Air
you.
Force brothers and sisters as well. You turbocharged what I did. I just bought a house every time the Navy moved me. So I was investing for a long time. You went all in on it. I love it. When is your next event that people on this call, if they just want to dive into a virtual event, they don't necessarily be in any one market, but do you have a link tree or do you have an Eventbrite? Is there something that people can sign up for and dive in and get some more info?
Yeah, absolutely. There's the Passive Income Club on Meetup for those of you guys who are interested. I also have the Wealth Builders Club on Meetup as well. There is a weekly webinar on Tuesdays about how to, basically buy your first property for $50,000 or less. I have a Deal of the Week webinar every single Friday, just kind of going over, one, how we underwrite, two, how we spot our deals globally. So you get a sense of, what we're looking at across the world. And then three, there is another webinar next Wednesday on the 18th, I believe, on the 18th, going over increasing NOI for your rental properties in states like Texas, Florida, Oklahoma, basically in the middle of the country. So those are those areas. And then if you do ever just want to get more information, It's very simple. My link is booksolomonfloyd.com. So basically, book B-O-K-K, sorry, B-O-O-K, forgive me. My name, Solomon Floyd, as it's spelled right there, .com. Very easy, very simple. And another thing for those of you who are, either raising money, investing, or doing something that involves your name as your brand, I highly recommend buying your domain name either through GoDaddy or whatever, just so again you have that as a part of your branding, and nobody else can take that from you. Because if you don't own your name, you don't own very much.
Love it. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. So I see Jose has his hand up.
I was going to ask Solomon to put his contact information in the chat so we can grab it.
Fantastic. Done and done.
All right. And then Orkeem.
Yes. Hi, Solomon and Walt. Thank you guys both for your service. I'm also a military VA veteran, served for 4 years Army,
Nice.
Fort Carson. My story is nowhere close to yours, Solomon. Exciting story. I just bought a 4-family 2 years in when I was in the military in Colorado. Then came to Jersey and started buying Maltese. But I love your story. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. As when people say thank you for your service, I'm always a big fan. I say thank you for paying your taxes. We couldn't have done it without you.
That's it.
So cool. All right, Marissa.
Hey, yeah, thank you for your service. I wanted to ask if you could talk more about the 1031 exchange. I always I'm going to be needing to do that soon, and I always go back and check on how does that work again? And yeah, I just always seem to not get the 100% grasp on it. If you're able to share how that works a little more.
Yeah, sure. I will preface, I'm no expert in 1031 exchange. That was just an example given. But I do know a bunch of other experts who are 1031 exchange professionals. So identifying that the property, you have certain timeframes to be able to identify when you're going to be able to kind of purchase and what your window is going to be. I believe you need what is called a QI, a qualified intermediary, in order to identify how you want to move those funds. Again, you should be able to look that up online, but if you need a recommendation, please feel free to let me know. I'm sure Walt definitely knows somebody as well. And then with that, it is a like-kind exchange, which means related to, it doesn't need to be another property. So you can invest either passively or actively into another deal. But it doesn't need to be like single family to single family. You can go single family to multifamily. You can even go to commercial, as long as the like-kind exchange is sort of the investment type. So property or real estate or REITs, anything kind of in the real estate related format. I don't know if I'm 100% on that, but as far as I understand it, like kind means within the same realm of the type of investment. So again, it doesn't need to be one particular stamp of single family, multifamily. You can move that 1031 exchange across multiple different assets. Yeah, there you go. Boom. 1031 exchange right here. Who is this? Peggy?
Peggy, yeah. So I was just gonna say that, Marissa, you should definitely connect with Peggy afterwards, because Peggy is a financial genius. She's been doing this for such a long time, and we're so lucky to have her participate in our calls on a weekly basis. We love her. So, Gloria.
Good morning. Yes, I had a question. How do you market them to get people to rent them?
Oh, the short-term rentals that Solomon was talking about?
Correct.
He has a built-in audience, but go for it, Solomon.
Yeah, it's kind of a built-in audience. So military members have to live in something called the recall range. Just imagine an imaginary 45-mile circle around a military base, and not all of them are that big, some of them, but for the one that I'm particularly talking about in Shepherd, it's a range where you have to legally live in to be able to not only receive your benefits, but also in case there's an attack on the military base, you can be recalled, right? And so one, I target military bases in the middle of nowhere purely because it's a needs-based investment strategy, but two, because they have the money for it. And so if I'm building and renovating kind of these older homes that aren't really suited for most people, not only do my pictures say a lot of how I take the photos, but even more importantly, military members have their own little built-in audience. So one of the things you can use, obviously, Zillow, Facebook. Those are going to be your two best options. for the free market, but specifically looking for those military members, you're going to use something called homes.mil. That's the I want to call it the government MLS because it's not really what it is, but it's like a localized listing system for that particular military base. So homes.mil is always a good one. They are going to come and inspect your house to make sure that it meets their qualities, their standards, before they put a tenant in there. But that's sort of how they'll do their listings. And then again, most of the real estate agents in that market and most of these markets are going to be military spouses. So that does provide a lot of coverage to be able to have their own network connected to an active duty military base. And that's the majority how I find the bulk of my tenants. There's also military by owner,
Military by owner. Yeah.
military by owner. Yeah. So that's another one you can also use, but there are several different places.
So your
Okay, one last.
occupancy, well, I was just
I'm
going to
so
say,
sorry, Gloria, go for it.
is the occupancy always 100%?
I wouldn't, I don't ever like to say 100%, but my downtime is never more than a month. So, the longest I've ever really had to experience keeping my properties on the market is about a month after either completion of construction or in between tenants. So think about military as oxygen to a room. Well, I'd say in previous circumstances, like oxygen to a room. So if somebody leaves a role, that role is usually not left open for a very long time. And if it is, it's filled by a civilian contractor until there's a military person that can come in and do it. But if a group of people deploy, for example, you should know that you're going to have another group of people coming back from deployment. Now, are they all going to rent from you? No, which is why you don't provide the bulk of the housing towards one military base. You do only a certain amount of what you think you can get. That's just a risk mitigation strategy overall.
All righty, nice, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, Orkeem, one last question.
Sure. This is new information for me because I'm prior service, and at the time when I was married, we had to live off base, and the place we lived was just like a local complex or what have you. But it was never a thing as far as when my wife wasn't there, I had to live on the barracks. So they have a lot of barracks available for soldiers. If you're a single soldier, that's something that's always available for a soldier. When I was stationed anyway in Colorado, I don't know how it is in Texas, but as a general rule of thumb, they always provided housing for us. That was never an issue. The only time it became a question was when we had a family member there, and even then, we wouldn't want to live in a house with other guys. We want to have our home apartment. So that's new to me.
Yeah, I mean, the model serves basically for those on the TDY status. So if you're on temporary duty yields, that's pretty much going to be the only way you're going to use it. And it's a matter of, do you want to keep most of your travel pay or all of your travel pay? So just trying to manage now with that, as I've grown my portfolio, it's gone from, the short-term renters to long-term renters to, being able to sell homes to being able to lease them out or have hotels, right? So it becomes a much larger portfolio then. But for my proof of concept, that time that I did it was primarily catering to the people who were going back to Shepherd Air Force Base, which is a training base for training, for either cross training or training onto new airplane platforms. So that way they would come back and they just needed a place to crash. And yes, military base does provide housing, but at the time I was at Shepherd, and I'm pretty sure it's still going on now.
One last question, not to linger the point, but how did you get your training? Like, where did you go? Did you go Bigger Pockets, or like, where did you get the concept to try this idea? I went to Carton Sheets. I said my age right there, Carton Sheets. But where did you go?
I didn't really go anywhere. I literally just had a notebook and wrote down at least 100 different ideas when I was in basic training, and all of them pointed towards real estate. I didn't know it at the time, but that then formalized my investment thesis of, okay, well, if everything is real estate around this military base, what can I do that's going to give me the return quickest? What can I buy that I don't need to use a lot of my own capital for? So again, I just did more research on the VA loan and was like, okay, we're going to pull the trigger and test this concept. But again, I was stationed at the front of the base every day. So every day I was talking to people who were like, I hate living here. The housing's awful. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, oh, great. Well, this is an easy solution to fix. This is the most common problem that everybody is talking about. And again, it wasn't like I was taking a major risk. I had like 70,000 people talking about how much they hated being on this military base, how much they hated living there. Oh, Wichita Falls is the worst. It's in the middle of nowhere. So it was like, okay, like, let me start with the thing I know I can control first. Let me start with housing. And then that turned into commercial, then that turned into new builds, and that turned into just a cycle of economic development that I utilized to, perpetuate and propel my funds in the 4 different markets that we serve.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I know you're out of the military right now. You did your 4 and got out.
Oh,
right?
yes.
I know that's right. I already knew that. That was
I'm
easy.
out.
Easy. Good talking. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. All right, you guys. We have time to do one breakout room. So I'm gonna have only because Solomon's not used to being put on the spot like this, I'm gonna put Walt on the spot and ask him to give us a breakout room question as I get them ready.
Yeah, this is something to think about based on the conversation we started with. What's one partner outside of your direct industry that you can go create a relationship with? One
Perfect.
partner
All
that
right.
you can create a relationship with.
All right, here we go, guys. Everyone, go to your room. All
In
right,
the
we're back.
breakout room. Hey, Deb, while I was in the breakout room, I was thinking all these great suggestions. If you weren't in the breakout room, you won't see it. So could we ask, you know, maybe one person, or if everybody wants to do it, to put in the chat what that person was, like what they came up with for being a good referral partner, so that we can have a list?
Sure, I would love that. Yeah, everybody do that now. Put it in the chat because we are going to wind this thing up. It is the top of the hour straight up, and I want to respect your time and get you back to your day. So, also, I want to say I did put my contact information there because there's the newsletter that you could sign up for, the Facebook group if you're not a part of that yet, and the YouTube channel where we put all of the recordings on after it. So if you missed a call, you can hop in the YouTube channel and see the replay. And if somebody you know was not able to get in the meeting today because of the Zoom meeting full whatever error message, then they can go to the YouTube channel and get the replay also. So thank you guys. I want to thank Walt for stepping in and filling in that time with his amazing suggestions. I know I can always count on him last minute because he's a master at what he does. And I want to thank Solomon for coming here and being willing to share with you, you know, how you built your real estate portfolio and how it's so cool how you took your military benefits on the salary of a airman and really built a real estate empire. So we love seeing shining examples like that. So thank you guys all for being here, being patient with the Zoom, and hopefully we'll get this resolved and won't have that same challenge next week. But we'll see you guys all again, same bat time, same bat channel next Thursday. Thank you, everyone.